Hi, my name is Brandon Bronaugh, and I am the transition expert. Basically, as a transition expert, what we do at LifeCycle Transitions is we work with clients that are in transition. I have been in this space for 12 years, and we have done over 1,000 transitions. Most of the clients will contact us because something happened, something's going to happen, or something needs to happen. And over my years of working with many clients, we've decided to start this podcast in celebration of life, what people are going through, what they're experiencing, primarily because of the pandemic, how they're getting through it and surviving and adjusting, but most importantly, how they're evolving. Today's guest is Julie. Julie, would you like to say hello?
Hi.
Julie is one of our most recent transition clients that we're working with. And we just wanted to invite you on the show to share with us your story and some of the things that you've recently gone with your family, particularly with your father, and why you contacted LifeCycle. So I guess if we can begin without further ado, just formally introduce yourself again and just tell us why you decided to contact LifeCycle.
My name is Julie Tideman, and a little bit about myself. I'm a scenic fabricator, so I build sets and things like that for a living. I live in Brockton in a 2-bedroom, 1.5-bathroom condo. It's a little over 1,000 square feet. I've lived here somewhere around 15 years or so. But within that time, this space in my life has gone through already a lot of transitions. I first moved here actually with my first husband. Unfortunately, that relationship ended. Condo went through a transition there. Then I met my second husband, and unfortunately, that didn't work out either. At one point, we moved out of the condo because we wanted our own space. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, he was fixing up the place. Unfortunately, like I said, that didn't work out. And I ended up about 5 years ago moving back into this condo. It was sort of a safety net. It's long been a safety net, and I'm glad to have it. But certainly that move was probably the beginning of me, I guess, maybe not caring as much. Or you and I had spoken yesterday, and something you said really hit me, which is life events happen and we're all told to just pull up our bootstraps and move on with things, which is what I did. But I didn't take the time to actually address it and process it and figure out what it was doing to me, both on the inside and on the outside, AKA my living space.
Right.
And then about a year ago, my dad's health really took a turn for the worse. And he was in the hospital, and I was there for him as his only child. But it definitely took a toll on me also. And then about 3 months ago, he transitioned into full-time nursing home living. So as far as I was concerned, that was a good move. I'm glad he was able to make that step. But also, he wanted to sell his house. Okay. Again, great. But he decided that he wanted to do it in about a month. Not so great.
Back up a little bit. Tell me about your father living independently. Was he in a house or a condo himself?
He was in pretty much a condo. It was a duplex in a retirement community on Cape Cod in Mashpee.
Okay. And so he had been living in there for how long?
Since 2011, almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years. Was there any encouragement on your end to support him downsizing when he did, or why did he do it so quickly?
Yes. It was funny, actually. Right before he moved into the nursing home, he and I started going through some of the stuff that was in the basement in preparation for the day that would eventually come that he might have moved to a nursing home. I was just talking to him today, and he started talking about all the stuff that he had in the basement, some of which is maybe in my storage unit now, that was from previous deaths, from my grandmother dying, and then other people. So I was just, again, remembering and relearning today that there's even more history for some of this stuff than I remember. It's stuff that's now traveled from Maryland all the way to Massachusetts.
And that's interesting you say that, because in most of the cases, when people pass on, the belongings from the person who passed away just sort of gets passed along from family member to family member. A lot of that in his case?
I saw more of it when he was living in Maryland. I didn't realize how much of it he had actually traveled with. And I think it's because he got rid of a lot of the big ticket items, furniture pieces, and things like that.
Right.
But I know there's definitely items in boxes, again, that belong to my grandmother, that things like makeup that is probably not good after 20 years, nor would anybody probably want to wear it either,
Oh
even if
gosh.
it was good. But getting back to your other question, the reason that he felt the need to do this so quickly is that he made the decision at the end of August that he wanted to sell his house.
Okay.
And living on the Cape, he's aware that there is a prime selling season.
Okay.
And as far as he was concerned, that prime selling season ended at Labor Day.
Oh wow. So he was trying to
So
be on top of things.
on top of it, luckily, he lived in a absolutely beautiful duplex that sold in literally 1 hour.
Wow.
So there was actually no need for the concern, but I get it. You want to hit it while the market is hot, not while nobody's looking for a house on the Cape.
Fortunately for him, like you said, the Cape is such a desirable area to live. I don't think he would have had an issue any time of the year.
I don't either. Like I said, it sold in 1 hour. That was that was pretty good.
Right. So your dad finally decided that he was going to downsize, but when he thought of downsizing, was there a lot of things leading up to that point? Had he been thinking about it for a while?
I think he knew that he didn't want to leave me with the burden of having to go through all of his stuff because he knew it was a lot of stuff. But I think that even though he knew that, he wasn't ready emotionally to face the fact that he was no longer independent.
Any falls in the home or any health issues?
Yes, incredible health issues. In fact, it got so bad that the fire chief in his area called me personally because the fireman had to be called 6 separate times when he fell because, as I told you, he's a very large man. So not one person can pick him up. They have to send the fire department to go deal with it.
How big is your dad?
He is about 6'5", about 480 pounds.
Now, did he recently gain weight or was he always a pretty big guy?
He was always a pretty big guy, and I would say in the past 20 years, it's only gotten more because his mobility has been reduced.
Mm-hmm.
So the fire chief actually called me up and said that they were going to file a lawsuit against me for elder neglect because he kept falling.
And how frequent were these falls? Like once a month, once every week, or?
Yeah, I would say on average, when it got bad, it was about once every 2 weeks.
Okay. Sounds like he was pretty stern, like most of our clients, about staying in the home independently. He was trying to stay as long as he could, it sounds like.
He really wanted to so badly. And as his daughter, there's only so much I could say to him because even though I'm a fully functioning adult, I'm still his little girl.
Always, always. So Julie, was there a straw that broke the camel's back when he decided that a month, I'm going to hit the peak season, I'm going to get the house in the market? Was there a notification from elder services or social workers or invite?
No, it was actually a hospital stay. There was a month where literally every week he would go back to the hospital and then come back home for a day and then go back and home for a day and then go back. And it got to a point where the last time he was in the hospital, I talked to him and I talked to his doctor, and we both agreed that it was safer for him to be in a place where there was care for him.
Let's just talk a little bit about your family. You're the only child, right?
I am the only child, yes.
And I noticed you hadn't mentioned your mom. Is your mom no longer with us? Is she passed on?
She passed away in 2009.
And was she a caretaker for your father, or was he a caretaker for her up until she passed on?
She actually was quite the caretaker for him. She was a nurse for all of her adult life. Yes. So at home and at work, she was well qualified for it. And my dad's mobility issues started in 2000. He had a spontaneous bone break, which is actually the only recorded case of that in the United States.
Where was he at when that happened? Was he in the home?
He said it was the weirdest thing. He was at home. He was walking out the door, and it was his femur that broke. And he had no idea what had happened. He thought that he had been shot or something, because all of a sudden, as he's walking out the door, he just boom, hit the ground. That was it. And that sort of started a series of events. He had another spontaneous bone break. He had many surgeries.
So he had multiple spontaneous bone breaks.
Yep, multiple spontaneous bone breaks.
Were they all femur related, or?
I believe 2 of them were femur, and then the other one was in the lower part of his leg, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And since that time, he was pretty much in and out of wheelchairs. And then by the time he moved to Massachusetts in 2011, he was pretty much just in the wheelchair.
For most people who don't know, the femur is one of the largest bones in your body, if not the largest bone to be exact. And I understand from a friend of mine who broke one of his, it's a very long recovery, is it not?
Yes. And since it was a spontaneous break, he had what's called an external fixator on his leg for quite a while and all sorts of things.
What was his recovery like at the home? Was your mom working full time and trying to take care of him, or did she stop working to take care of him full time?
Nope, she worked full time and helped take care of him. He is a very, like me, tenacious person and a very positive person. So whatever independence he could have, he sought. So he didn't want to be a burden on my mom either. And so he did whatever he could to take care of himself. But he obviously definitely needed somebody there to help him and bring him things and do things for him.
So this is around 2000, and you said the accident occurred, and it was a spiral from there. What was your father's background? What did he do for work?
He was a real estate appraiser. He worked for DC government, and he also worked for a couple private entities along the way. Mm-hmm. He lived in Maryland all of his life after the age of 3 until 2011 when he moved to Massachusetts to be closer to me.
So he's still working from the home, it sounds like, and still maybe traveling occasionally. Mom's in the healthcare field. She used to be a nurse, but she's taking care of him. What happened with your mom's health? How did things take a turn for the worse with your mom, and when?
So her health was average until the day she died. So she died of a heart attack very suddenly and unexpectedly. She had actually just had a full cardiac workup 6 weeks previous, and it was perfect. So literally, mom and dad had gone to church because it was a Sunday, and that's usually what they would do. Mm-hmm. And they came home, and I think my dad was in one room doing some computer work or something, and my mom was in the other room. And my dad heard a weird noise. That was it. She was gone. It is potentially something that is hereditary. I mean, obviously cardiac things are hereditary, but her father, her grandfather, and her uncle all had a similar situation where they woke up one day feeling perfectly fine and all before the age of 60, and then boom, heart attack, dead.
Oh gosh. How old was your mom?
She was 59.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. So initially, when you were telling me the story, the first thing that came to mind is caretaker burnout. I've experienced that in so many different facets, where the wife, in most cases, because let's face it, fortunately, women live longer than men, and men are the ones that usually succumb to some of their illnesses, whether chronic or otherwise. And the wives are the ones who are taking care of them, taking them to doctor's appointments, dialysis, and so have it. And I assume because your father had some issues that maybe she was taking care of him and then something happened to her. But it sounds like the family went through an enormous transition, a shift overnight from everything appearing to be one way and maybe thinking your father concerned about your dad, but never concerned about mom.
Never. And I didn't realize this when she was alive. It wasn't until she had passed that my mother truly was the matriarch of the family and the glue.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize it. Who knew? And then she was gone, and all of a sudden, everything started disintegrating. Those family ties started disintegrating. Family traditions started disintegrating, all those things. And it wasn't at first necessarily, but over time we realized that, again, she was the one who kept all those things really going.
Tell me how your father reacted and what you noticed soon after your mom passing.
Honestly, he handled it better than I ever would have thought, considering how close they were and how in love they were. Mm-hmm. He showed an amount of strength that I was really impressed with. But I will say the one big difference that I noticed that holds true to this day and is something that I think really affects his day to day and my day to day is that my mother was, being a caretaker, very pragmatic and very stern and very strict, and she kept him in line. His joke was that he's got his head in the clouds and she's got her feet on the ground and she just keeps him tethered to the ground.
Oh yeah.
They were a good team that way, but unfortunately without her, he reverted to some more teenage like behavior, let's just say, and not keeping himself in line the way that he should in taking care of himself,
Naturally,
sleeping
yeah.
properly, eating properly, doing those sort of things. And again, to this day, I look at some of his behaviors and think to myself, oh, mom would not be happy about this.
Oh, yeah. And to chime in on what you're saying, I see that so often. People take for granted what the other person brings to the table. In most relationships, you have one person, like you said, that's more pragmatic, the other one that's a little bit more spirited, and it keeps that person from being in their head and thinking too much. But in a case like your father, he might not have known all the things that your mom was doing for her in terms of proper nutrition, just making sure that the house was kept up, keeping his spirits in the right area, but also making sure that he did all the necessary things to take care of himself, more importantly than anything. And being that he's a big guy, she probably saw some of those things that were probably going to be an issue for him, and she sort of blocked it. And he didn't realize it, obviously, until she
Yep.
wasn't there policing some of those bad tendencies.
Yep, I think that's 100% accurate. Yeah. So I would say that's probably the biggest shift that I saw in him.
Nice. Okay, so dad had been living in the home alone from 2009 until when?
2011, he moved to Massachusetts.
Okay, that's about right. Because usually what I see is, in some cases, I've seen people in a case like your dad, and when the wife passes on, it's a quick shift, usually months, 2, 3, 6 months. You can go there, you can start seeing food in the refrigerator that's spoiling, you can see garbage that's not taken out. You'll see the telltale signs. It sounds like he kept it together for a pretty decent time afterwards.
He did. He really did. And it was never, well, I should say, until the past couple of years, it was never extreme. It was sort of the smaller behaviors and things like that that started slipping. And then again, in the past couple of years, is when I really have noticed how much he just doesn't have that
Self-control.
Yes.
Has
Yeah.
there ever been any hoarding tendencies in the family between your father and your mom?
Yes, I would say probably my dad. Though actually no, you know what? Probably both of them. My mom, having had her parents go through the depression,
Mm-hmm.
there were certainly some things where, here's a weird example. The little Pyrex 2-cup liquid measuring things that you see. My mother had me convinced as a child that those were the most precious, most expensive things that anybody could ever have.
Wow.
And so, and I
Really?
think because I may have broken one as a child and she got upset.
Oh,
But I didn't realize that this was the case until I think I was with my second husband and he broke one. And I just completely overreacted. I was horrified. I said, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. Where are we ever going to get one? This is going to be so expensive to replace. What have you ever done? He looks at me and says, Julie, I can go to Walmart and get one for $2. What are you talking about?
really? So she basically instilled that fear in you that
That,
these were priceless objects.
yes, you have to keep everything and you have to keep it in good shape and you can't let anything go.
So that was one of the tendencies that maybe she exhibited. Did dad exhibit any of his own quirks?
Well, my dad actually has been diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. So I think with him, it was more he would get obsessed with something and not be able to let it go, both mentally or physically, not be able to let it go.
Okay. Now, did you see any of those tendencies growing up around the house with him when you were younger?
Yes, definitely.
How was the house growing up? Was it very organized and neat, or was it a little bit disheveled at times?
It was a little disheveled at times. And in fact, my parents had a good group of friends. They would have dinner parties ever so often at each other's house. And the running joke among the friends is that the nicest decoration that we had in our house was the vacuum cleaner that was always just front and center because we never bothered to put it away.
Wow. Interesting. Were your parents good sports about that, or were they offended by some of those?
Oh no, they were absolutely good sports about it. They recognized, they said, you know what, this is what it is. We're doing the best we can.
Mhm.
At least we vacuumed. You can tell the vacuum cleaner's out.
It works.
Yeah.
So just the occasional clutter here or there, it sounds like was the bigger issue. You're the only child. So what's it like being the only child in the house? Tell me a little bit about how that dynamic between you and your father changed when your mom passed away in 2009.
Being the only child, there's the ups and downs. All the attention was given to me, which is both good and bad. It was nice in a lot of ways, I'm sure, but I really could have used a distraction from my parents ever so often. One of the benefits is that I was very close with both of them. And as I had mentioned yesterday, I've always been particularly close with my dad. For most of my life, he's been one of my best friends. After my mom passed, he and I almost got even closer because we rallied. We all of a sudden didn't have anybody else. This person that we both loved so much was gone.
Mhm.
Actually, when she passed, I think for a good year or so, I called him at least twice a day, at least. We would talk about anything and everything.
Did you see more of a vulnerable side of your dad after she passed that you never seen before?
My dad has actually always been pretty emotionally accessible.
Okay.
That was not unusual for me to see that. But yeah, like I said, I think he and I actually even got closer.
Do you think you took on more of your mom role with your dad, making sure he was okay and trying to stay on top of things more?
In the past 2 years, definitely. Since his health has gotten so bad, I've had to take on some more parental roles.
What's his health now like?
I would say tentative. I'm very glad he's in a skilled nursing home because they do pay attention and they look out for him, but he's fragile. That's really the best way to put it. He's fragile.
Do you take care of all the legal documents in terms of power of attorney and so on and so forth?
Yes.
Now, that's very important. The reason I mention that, and I urge anyone else who's listening to take care of those things, especially when you recognize some shift cognitively or some issues with the person that you love, health issues begin to decline. Because when these things happen, you need to have power of attorney, proxy. You need to be able to make finite decisions in a moment's notice on things that are very important, both legally, but also related to their health directly. If there's a surgery that needs to be done, if something has to happen, they need to have a point person to make that decision. Otherwise, things can be left in the air. So I commend you for getting that part done. Has your dad expressed anything that he's concerned about now at this point in his life?
He did say going into the nursing home that he's glad that he put some of his money in a trust
Mhm.
because he said he really wants, when he does go, his money to go where he wants it to and not have a nursing home take all of it. You know, he's got some liquid assets, obviously, that he can use to pay the nursing home and live day to day, but he did take some money and put it in a trust. And obviously, that will come to me. Or if for some reason I'm not around, he's got some charities that he'd like to donate to. But I think for that, it was more, again, the loss of independence when he moved to the nursing home. I think he was just feeling, wow, my house is gone. They're taking away everything. And
Control. Yeah.
once I'm totally gone, they may even take all my money.
Are you a big advocate for nursing homes, or are you sort of neutral in based on a case by case scenario or situation?
I would say case by case. I think for my dad, it is absolutely the only place that he could be and be safe. But again, it's case by case. I will say this, whatever is necessary for the person, it is always a difficult decision to lose that independence. It was difficult on me as his daughter even to see
Right.
that. I knew the decision had to be made, but how do you tell the person that always took care of you that they can no longer take care of themselves?
Now, have you noticed any erratic behavior with him, like mentally? I mean, personality changes?
He sometimes has some cognitive weirdness, for lack of a better way to put it, because he has oxygenation issues. So sometimes his CO2 levels will increase, and then yes, he will become confused and occasionally sort of say and do some sort of weird things. Nothing too out there though that I've seen yet.
It's an old saying that goes, once a man, twice a child. And in a case like your father, to see your hero, this big 6'5" gentleman who's always been strong and independent, not in the position that he's been your entire life. Tell me how that shift has affected you, being that you're the only child.
And it has been really tough. It has been tough for me to wrap my brain around the fact that this person who, was so strong and also one of my confidants. I would call my dad and ask him for advice on everything and anything. And now his cognitive function is not there. If I ask him for advice, it's not necessarily going to be great advice. And I know that. And that's tough to lose that person. It's also tough to see his quality of life suffer. I really hate that. And it makes me feel helpless, honestly. I can't do anything about it. I can't make it better for him. I can be there for him and I can spend time with him. I can't make his quality of life any better than it is.
Is your father a chronic sufferer of pain or dealing with something that you've seen deteriorate? Like I noticed you said he had the sporadic breaks. Has he been dependent on pain management over the years?
He has unfortunately been on opiates for, I would say, about 20 years since all this started. And though he does not take them to get high, because he actually doesn't enjoy that feeling at all, he is now physically dependent on opiates.
You see so many people that end up in those scenarios, whether from a car accident, dental surgeries, and these were very healthy people that were very level-minded. Now, all of a sudden, have to live their life managing the pain and altering their personalities along the way because the pain management changes a lot of other things. You've seen his health over the last 2-3 years and get to the point where he's now in a skilled nursing home. What does it feel like for you knowing that you're the only person left in your family and you have all these imminent concerns or fears that maybe someday your father may not be with you anymore? What's it like knowing that and feeling that feeling?
It is scary as hell. It really is. It is something that weighs on me every day. I feel lucky that I do have a community of people around me, but as you said, also I am the only child, and at the end of the day, it is my responsibility.
I've done over 1,000 transitions, and the ones that are always the most painful or the most challenging are the ones with the only child, because there's such a bond that you share being 3 members of a family or 2 members, where in some cases it's usually a mom and a daughter or a son and a daughter. And when one passes on, it leaves the other person sort of feeling a little bit alone and lost. Have you noticed any changes? Have you dealt with any issues with like depression over the years?
I certainly have over the years, and this is trauma is honestly the word that I keep going back to. I feel like I have experienced a trauma in seeing my dad basically almost die in front of me twice, and then realizing that I had to be the one to carry that burden.
Right.
And within that, also feeling so helpless that I could do nothing. So I would say it has caused trauma for me, and I'm still trying to work through that, definitely. Part of it, I think, for me is also reclaiming what is mine, which is why this process is so important. I need to reclaim my home so that at least I have a home base that is a good foundation so that I can try to continue to be the support for my dad that I need to be.
Absolutely. Touch everything that touches you, and seeing how now you want to be as independent as possible. You've been in this condo for 15 years. When you reached out to LifeCycle, what was the main reason? What was in the back of your mind? What were you looking for?
I guess the best way that I have to put it is that the condo where I live had gotten to the point where I would come home and I wouldn't spend any time in my living room or dining room, or barely even any time in my kitchen. I would just come home and immediately go and hide in my bedroom. That is not who and what I am. To put it bluntly, I'm a vivacious person. I want to do things. I want to be involved in things. I want to have a home where I feel comfortable. I want to spend time in my kitchen cooking and feel good about it. I feel like the overwhelming feeling that I would get just walking in here and looking around and seeing all dad stuff and all the old stuff, it overwhelmed me, like I said, so much that all I wanted to do was go hide.
Mhm.
And that was really sort of a breaking point for me, that I realized that I'm hiding and it's not getting better. And I don't want to continue to do this. I want to be me.
Did you feel weighed down with all these other things that were going
Oh,
on in your life?
absolutely. I get this image of a wave, like I was sort of standing underneath a wave that was constantly about to crash over me. And I could see it, and I'm just waiting for it to crash. And I guess I realized that wave was gonna crash, and I better be as prepared as I possibly can before it does.
Right. And a lot of times clients feel sort of guilty when all these different things are going on in their life that they neglect themselves. That's where caretaker burnout starts from. It's like, how can I dare go to the gym? How can I dare go out with friends? How can I dare go play golf when my husband or my wife is suffering or handicapped or disabled? And over time, they begin to neglect themselves and they don't even see it. It sounds like in that 15-year span, you didn't really break the home in, and you never really personalized it.
Yeah, there was a short period of time that I can think of that it really felt like a home for me. And that was only about a year or two. Within the 15 years that I've been here, there's only been about a year or two that I can recall coming home from work and thinking, this feels like home.
When you close your eyes and you visualize your house in the most positive light, is there anything that stands out?
Yeah, and it's something I was talking to you about a little bit yesterday. I want my home to be a showcase for the things that make me me, that come from my family and my background.
Mhm.
So, like the table I showed you, that's the porthole of the ship from my grandfather that he captained.
Mhm.
I think actually I would like to do a little more with my living room table, because that was something that I fabricated myself from reclaimed items. And I'm very proud of that. And things like that. That's what I really think of. I don't think of a specific finished vision. I think I want to take these things that are me and really show them off. Even if I'm the only one looking at them, I want to show them off.
Sounds like you just want to appreciate the things that matter most to you. And in a case like yours, clutter eliminates functionality. You begin to start seeing yourself not utilizing the full home. Like I said, the house tells you more about you than any other facet of your life. It tells you more about you than the car you drive, the music you listen to, the clothing you wear in some regard, because it tells you where you spend most of your time, the least of your time, what matters most to you in certain areas, and how you neglect these things. And if you really dissect them, which is what we've been trying to do, is to really understand holistically what the house really means to each individual so that we can make the home and customize the home so that it fits them. At some points in your life, your home's going to change. You need to change with it. You need to respond to it. If you are a big family and those 5 members of the family, all 3 of the kids are going off to college, then there's certain rooms you don't need for the same purpose you did maybe 5, 10 years ago. In a case like yours, you had this condo, you shared it with your ex-husband at one point, but you never really, I think, grew into the home in the way organically that it's intended to grow. So what we wanted to do, and I think we discussed yesterday, is how do we do that? How do we make this home more like you, like the dartboard that you had on the wall that you were so proud of? How do we move all these other things that are just distractions and interference to get you more in tune with your hobbies and your likes? Because if we do that, I'd like to know, what would that mean to you to have your home do more for you than it's ever done before?
Okay, I'm going to try real hard not to get emotional now, because I've been getting emotional today. What would it mean to me? A second chance. Honestly, that's what I keep thinking of today, is that this is my second chance. I have let life get in the way so much and take so many hits at me, and I just haven't realized the potential that I know is inside of me because of all these things. This is it. This is the second chance for me to say, you know what? This is my home. This is my life. I'm taking it all back.
Right. Your home is more than just a place you rest. Your home is a place where you can actually live. It can be a live organism, as dramatic as it may sound, because there's so much life that can actually happen inside of those four walls. There's entertainment, there's joy, there's laughter, there's activities, there's recreations, whether it's video gaming or whether it's reading. But so many of our clients that battle all these different things or have a challenging career, they come home and they find a little cubby area in the home and they go to sleep, they wake up, they take a shower, and then they leave. They don't even realize that they don't even eat in their home because there's no room to cook in the kitchen, because they don't have counter space, or because they haven't really functioned the refrigerator so that they can get fresh groceries in and out of it and discard the old ones. So they've become prisoner of their own home. And I think in a lot of cases, as dramatic as that may sound, you can become a prisoner of your home. And have you seen or felt at any point during the 15 years that maybe this home was functioning more like a prison to you in some cases?
Oh my gosh, like I said, the majority of the time, unfortunately. You were absolutely right that I've never really moved in. Even though I've lived here for 15 years, I don't think there's been a time that there weren't unpacked boxes somewhere in this condo.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's been other times when it wasn't necessarily a prison, but it wasn't home.
Right.
It wasn't the inviting place that I think to myself, well, now that's where I want to go and spend some time. And definitely recently, I have been aware of the fact that even though it's a pandemic, I've been going out to eat more than I ever have because, like you said, even though I have a kitchen, oh God, it's such a hassle to even
Right.
deal with it at a certain point. Certainly not good mentally, also not good financially.
No, it's not. Do you find yourself in a state of avoidance where you sort of avoid looking at certain areas of the home?
Oh my gosh, yes. And that's always been the case. There's always been those sort of trouble spots that you just turn a blind eye to, don't look too closely at that.
Mhm.
There's always been a level of avoidance, definitely.
Having been in your home, I don't think you hit those more extreme cases where there's like home imprisonment. Usually an example of a home that's severely distressed and the house is falling apart and there's a lot of indications of hoarding, and the client doesn't want to be there and doesn't want to stay there anymore. That's not the case with you. You actually like your condo, right?
I do. Yeah, I really do. I like a lot of things about the location. I like the fact that it's ground floor and I have a nice patio.
Mhm.
Once it's clean, I really like my bathroom space, actually.
Right.
There's a lot of things I like about it.
And the thing about your place is, and I just want to be very clear, is we rate homes on a scale of 1 to 3 in terms of hazards, in terms of the level of condition or the level of accumulation that ultimately leads to hoarding. We would classify your house as a 1. And the reason there is, well, actually a 1 with a maybe a 1.5, because there are some rooms that you can't get access to, but those are rooms that you conformed into storage areas. But the overall condition of the condo is in pretty good shape. What I think is just you never really personalize it. Most of the things that we talked about are mainly cosmetics, maybe fresh coat of paint, maybe updating the countertops, the cabinets, doing certain things that can just make you feel more comfortable with it, but nothing, I don't think, too dramatic that makes you feel like the stress the moment you turn the corner or put the key in the door that you're going into an unhealthy environment. I didn't get that from your environment. Just want to make that clear.
And I agree. Nothing is so bad. And that's one of the reasons I want to do this now, because I don't want it to get to the point where I feel like a prisoner.
Yeah, and that's important because at this stage, you're very young, you got a lot to live for, you have a really good career, and we talked a little bit about what you do. Can you share a little bit more about some of the projects that you've worked on?
Sure. So again, scenic fabricator. I build sets and scenery for TV studios. We worked on the Super Bowl a few years ago, went to Atlanta. That was pretty cool. I watched the Super Bowl with a friend, a coworker of mine, and we basically spent half of it watching the game and the other half looking at the scenery saying, oh, I built that. Oh, I worked on that. I did that part over there.
So you definitely have an exciting career, which is a plus, obviously.
It is. It's really fantastic. I get to do some of the coolest things. I recently worked on a museum exhibit at Concord Museum, and I actually built the case that houses Paul Revere's lantern.
Wow. That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. I think the fact that you have such a very exciting career that you have so much passion with, I think that might have been able to keep you distracted from this place also. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, last spring when my dad was in the hospital and I came back from taking time off to be with him and make sure he was okay. And I came back to work and people asked me how I was. And I said, I am so thrilled to be back here because work is my vacation from my life. And that's really how it felt.
Wow. And you know what? You're not alone in that regard because there's so many of our clients that are professionals that very productive in their work life. In fact, overly productive in their work life. And when they come home, they're tired, they're exhausted, and they don't have the energy to do the day-to-day things that most of us do, like take out the trash, go to the grocery store. So you see a lot of pizza boxes and Chinese food boxes.
Yeah.
They don't have the time to do those things. I noticed that you talked about your career, you talked about the art, you talked about the theater. Your eyes lit up like a Christmas tree. It's because there's so much passion in what you do, which, to be honest, is an enormous blessing.
It really is. It has definitely gotten me through a lot of things. Even on those days when I'm feeling weighed down by my surroundings or by the fact that my dad's health isn't good and there's nothing I can do about it. It's a thing that'll get me up in the morning and say, okay, well, I can't change any of that, but you know what I can do? I can go to work and work my butt off and make a difference.
And that's the attitude. And I think for you, you have your relationship with your father, trying to see him and have that relationship be as strong as possible as for as long as you can. But then you have your home life and what you want to do with making that house more into your home is going to be a measure of spending the time to tackle some of those things that you sort of avoided, like maybe that room that we looked at, or maybe doing something in different areas of the home. When you get those things together, do you think it's going to make you happier to come home more?
100%. Again, there has been at least one or two times that I did feel like this place was a home. I remember very specifically when I turned 30, and it was actually a couple months before my mom passed away. I was dating my second husband at the time, and for my 30th birthday, he took me to Florida. It was a lovely trip. We were there for, I think, a week or so. And we came back. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, we're going to walk into the condo. How am I going to feel about it? Am I going to feel like it's just icky and gross and I don't want to be there? And an indifference, because for many years I was simply indifferent to it. I would walk in and, okay, it's a place where I can store my stuff and sleep in a bed. But I remember after that trip walking in, and I was so pleasantly surprised that it felt like home.
Mm.
And that's what I want again. It felt so good to have that, to have a place that I felt good about and felt comfortable in. So I know it's possible, and I know that that's a great feeling.
Mm. That's a feeling you deserve. And I think that's something that people really need to hear more frequently, is that you deserve. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to have a home that you can go to and look forward to being in all the time. And you deserve a home that you can showcase your family heirlooms and take pride in.
So my best friend, in seeking this out, she has been very supportive of me, saying, yes, get help, Julie, do it. And what she keeps saying to me that I keep going back to is, I deserve help.
That you do. And for us, giving you that ability to express yourself in your home like you have done theatrically and throughout the arts and your craft and your creative ability to put these wonderful elaborate sets together is going to be our greatest accomplishment for you and gift to you, because we want to champion that success alongside you because we believe you deserve it. We've talked about a plan, and the plan that we want to adopt in your case, we want to go through all the items that are in your house, the items that belong to you, the items that belong to your father, the items that belong to possibly even your mom. And we want to go into those storages that are off-site and see if we can consolidate those two storages that you have into one, or maybe get rid of both of them, and then take some of those items from there, bring those items back to the home, because there are some couches and some chairs that you mentioned when we talked yesterday that you want to bring back to the house, right?
Yeah, my dad had some nice furniture that I'd like to have in a nice place, but I don't feel like my condo's quite ready for nice furniture yet.
We want to get you as close to that point as possible. So getting rid of a lot of the old to make room for the new you is going to be the greatest way to start the new year. We're going to do the packing. We're going to do the sorting. We're going to do the organizing. We're going to separate things. We're going to get rid of things. We're going to make room for new things. Then we're going to clean the entire place from top to bottom. We're also going to talk about some construction objectives in terms of painting the place to some desired colors that can personalize and showcase the artistic version of you. The arts don't have to just end when you leave work. They can come home with you. You can see these things and experience you all day, every day, 100% of the time.
That's what I'm looking for.
So I'm excited about being a part of this journey with you. The team that we have scheduled to be at your home tomorrow is one of our best team that has been with us for a very long time. They're going to meticulously go through every measure to personalize your home the way you want. I mean, this is your chance and your time, Julie, to make this house truly into your home.
Finally!
So I'm excited. I think I've said it 5 times. Tomorrow's going to be a new start. It's going to be the first day of what we project to be a 5 to 7 day endeavor. We're going to take our time because there's a therapy in this journey. It's not just let's go in and let's throw everything that's not bolted to the ground. And that's the hardest thing to explain to people about what LifeCycle is all about. And it's about really allowing people to unearth a lot of the trauma and the emotional baggage that weighs them down and manifests in a physical, in terms of an attachment or something that they just can't seem to get rid of. It's like that shirt that you want to throw away, and for some reason it keeps ending up in your laundry and you keep folding it, but you're like, wow, I keep saying I want to throw this shirt away. We want to be the coach with the whistle to say, do you really need this? What are you going to do with that? And not because you have an issue with letting go of things, but sometimes we all just need someone to give us a little bit of a push along the way.
That makes a lot of sense. It was funny. I was talking to my dad about things in storage that he may have to get rid of. And it was real funny because he was saying certain things. I said, oh, well, what about this? And he said, no, I want that. And I looked at him. I said, okay, so you want me to bring it here to the nursing home and bring it into your room? And he'd look at me and say, oh, no, I don't need that.
Right.
He has it in his head that he wants it, but the reality is he's definitely not going to use it. And good practice on him, because I know I'm going to have to be thinking that way myself also.
This is going to be exciting. It's going to be a tale of many different phases as we go through and peel away this onion. You're going to start finding things that you haven't seen in a while. You're going to make decisions in maybe areas that maybe you thought were going to be harder than they were, easier than where they were. I mean, even when we sat down that day and you were moving all that furniture and you discovered a letter that your mom had wrote to your dad, those are the scenarios that are going to come. And it's therapy, it's cleansing, because we really feel that if we can get this house in the condition that maybe you wanted it to be and believed it could be and should be, you're going to be happier as a result of it.
Yeah, like I said, I just keep on feeling like I've gotten a second chance here, and I'm so excited about that.
Tomorrow's the first day. Crew's going to be there bright and early at 9 a.m. It's going through Julie's mind right now, knowing that the crew's going to be there tomorrow morning.
Oh my God. Well, first of all, I'm a little afraid because I'm not going to be there first thing.
Okay.
So they're going to be doing their thing, right? Without me. Okay, that's a little terrifying, but I'm ready. I'm ready for the change. It is so wildly outside of the scope of what I've done in my life that it's hard to think, oh my God, people are going to come into my house and start going through my things. What the heck? But I know that this is what I need. And because I can see what's on the other side of that, that just overcomes the fear. I'm nervous. I'm really nervous about people coming in here, touching my stuff, looking at my stuff, judging me. I don't know. I know they do this for a living, but still there's that anxiety that there's other people in my home, and I am a relatively private person. I don't have a lot of people over all the time. So there's that. But again, the fact that I know what's on the other side, it just makes it seem okay. I can do this. It's not scary. It's for a good purpose.
And you have the right mindset. And you're right. We've been doing this for 12 years, and people don't realize what it's like to allow someone to trust in someone to touch your belongings, to make decisions. Your home is the most intimate environment in your life. The whole world can get portions of you, they can get aspects of your personality. You can share glimpses of your true being with them, but your home is where you're really 100% in. It's where you can take off that veneer and you don't have to put that mask on anymore. And when you welcome outside into that environment, it takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of confidence, but it also takes a lot of trust. I tell all of our clients, integrity is easier kept than recovered. Understanding and loving you and preserving you and showing the level of respect for you and your home is what our technicians are trained to do. They're going to go in your environment and they're going to make sure that all the things that are going to need to be done are going to be done the right way. But as time progresses, they'll mimic some of the ways that you think. They'll know what you want to get rid of, what you want to keep, because they're going to have a list of things and separate piles that they're going to ask you to make decisions on. You're going to be able to say, I want to get rid of this, I want to get rid of that, I want to keep that. And those choices are going to be easy to replicate, is what I'm trying to say.
That makes sense. They'll start to see a pattern, probably, definitely.
They'll definitely see a pattern. Tomorrow's the first day. I'm excited. The team's excited. At the end of the day, we'll have a conversation just to see how things progressed. I want you to get a good night's rest, because I know tonight the anxiousness, the anxiety of, oh my gosh, it's going to start kicking in. But don't you worry. Rest assured, the team that are going to be there tomorrow is going to take very good care of you.
Excellent. I can't wait.
All right. So once again, I'm Brandon Bronaugh, the transition expert with LifeCycle Transitions. This is my guest, Julie, who is our client, who we're going to be helping to transition her home. I'm excited again to have you on the show and share your story and your journey. And if there's anything you want to say before we go, feel free to say it.
Honestly, the biggest thing I want to say is thank you. Thank you for this, because I keep on saying it, but this is my second chance. And not to put too fine a point on it, but I've not been in a great place in my life for a couple of years, and I am so ready to be in a better place. And I see this as the absolute beginning and the absolute foundation of being better. So thank you. Just thank you.
No, you're very welcome. And I'm pleased to be a part of that journey. The team that's going to be there tomorrow is going to embrace the challenge. And in 7 days, we're going to be having another conversation. And that conversation is going to be even better conversation about what happens next, because this is just one aspect of your life. Once we tackle this, there's going to be other things that I want you to champion success and graduate and promote yourself in all other aspects of joy, happiness, peace, and tranquility, because you deserve that. You deserve this. You deserve so much more. And let's go out there and let's go make it happen.
Hell yeah.
Thank you so much, Julie. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you. You too.
Bye now.
Bye.